Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Alan.
Dr. Johnson. How you doing?
Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to finally meet you and be here. Thanks for having me.
We're not quite under a coolabah tree. I'm not sure what. I think this is a bottle brush, actually.
Oh, is it a bottle brush?
Yeah,
They're beautiful, aren't
so.
they? Yeah.
So
They are actually, yeah. There's one or two over there, yeah.
we're sitting outside Functional Movement Training Centre, Wollongabba, Brisbane. I'm absolutely delighted that Alan English has flown up from Sydney.
Thanks very much for having me.
Dedicating a whole day to coming out and seeing well, you can tell us. What have you done today?
Well, I had a meeting this morning early with Vicky from True North Wellness over in Albany Creek. Albany Creek,
north side of Brisbane,
Beautiful little clinic there. Actually, it's their 10th year and anniversary today, and they've finally got the keys and they're now proud owners of that facility there, which is fantastic. So it was a great start to the morning, and met up with yourself, Dr. Johnson, here across Functional Movement Training Centre, and we
watched a NeuroHab class.
We watched a NeuroHab class, and we've just gone through an absolute whopper of a CrossFit. Well, look, apparently it's not a whopper. It was a basic one, but that's the first one that I've gone through. But it was really good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Just for our listeners who may know a little bit more about CrossFit or functional fitness, we did 975, 575 of power snatch, thrusters, and bar facing burpees. Barbell weight prescription was 43 kilos.
Yeah.
Alan, you dropped it down to about 38?
38, yeah.
38 kilos. How did it feel?
It felt bloody hard as we started to get close to the end on that 5-7 and approaching the last 9. I was thinking it was mental games at that stage. It's mental. It wasn't even thinking about the technique and movement patterns there. All it is just pushing through and believing and going to the end.
Well, I was watching you, and because you have a good foundation of biomechanical movement proficiency, it was actually very easy to teach Alan Olympic weightlifting. The snatch movement and the thruster movement. They are the most efficient means to move heavy weights large distances quickly, and so teaching Alan was a dream, because all I had to do was give him very simple cues. He knew to keep the barbell close, he knew to use the most powerful muscles of his body, keep his spine neutral, and it didn't take a lot of cueing, maybe 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes or so,
We started with the broomstick,
yeah.
We went to the empty barbell, then we started putting on a few plates, and then we worked up to the weight that you felt comfortable with that was going to still give you that nice stimulus. And boy oh boy, it was beautiful. A good stimulus.
It was good, a great feeling at the end. Now we're pumped now.
We were both lying on the ground at the end, so objective achieved.
Job well done. Yeah, it was awesome.
And now we've got all the good hormones floating around our bloodstream. Just to have a bit of a chat about what the future holds for our professional.
And I think maybe for the listeners as well, I might give them some background as to how I suppose I came across yourself.
Tell them what your job is.
Well, I'm an accredited exercise physiologist, so I work in the space of mental health with young children and adolescents, but also workplace injury, exercise rehabilitation, workers' compensation, and I also do a bit of strength and conditioning work then as well back in Sydney. But I came across quite a lot of chronic pain and chronic lower back pain in my 7 to 8 months as an exercise physiologist, the new exercise physiologist, and there was some complex cases, and you were referred by Dr. Andrew Locke to have a chat about some of my cases, and I actually contacted you on Instagram about a particular case. I wasn't really expecting a reply, if I'm honest. You're a busy chap, but you said give us a ring, and I was blown away by that. And I think that's where the inquisitive nature of everything started.
Well, I think we're cut from the same milk after having a chat with you, and I can tell by the questions that people ask. I'm not big online either on the social platforms, but I do realise the value of things like Instagram when it comes to this professional world of getting our message out about movement, and hence why I use Instagram, because I think that's one of the biggest problems that we've got is getting it out to the community that there is another way. There is another approach or another methodology to helping the massive epidemic of musculoskeletal pain.
Yeah.
And my obvious area of interest and passion is spine related.
Yeah.
But like yourself, you've got other clients with other musculoskeletal problems. But fundamentally, we want to get the message out there about movement and biomechanical.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I think it's not just about lower back pain. The symptoms are there, but time and time again, no matter what I see or what part of the body, it's the symptoms being treated but not the cause.
Yeah.
And I learned that very, very quickly.
That's exactly.
And we're not doing a good job of it, Bob, from a medical standpoint, but also from the allied health.
Yeah.
And I think the old acute medical treatment model that we have is not suited to treating people both biopsychosocial aspect of their injury or psychological component of what they have gone on in their life at the moment. I just feel we're a little bit ill-equipped with things, and there was things about pain, the chronic pain or nature of the chronic pain in patients and clients that I was seeing that I didn't have the answers to, and I knew that I had to reach out to somebody that had experience, and I'm delighted to come across yourself. But that's what I'm seeing. Like there may be a structural problem there. There's definite movements.
Structural problems are secondary to an underlying causation.
There's problems with fundamental movement, but I think as well, and Dr. Johnson, and I've got questions on this as well, but I see there's a huge psychological component that's not being addressed, only through medication, which leads to people going down a really dangerous path in some situations in terms of depressive symptoms, and people being stuck in a rut of chronic pain and polypharmacy.
Yeah, 100%. Well, most people, when they feel chronic pain, it starts to erode at all elements of their life. They obviously have the physical disabilities, but that then progressively starts to influence their metabolic health and their mental health, and they become real train wrecks simply because the underlying root cause, as you said, has never been addressed. They go and see their GP or their physical therapist who kind of band-aids the problem, but if you don't get rid of the underlying seed of the problem, all you're doing is sort of nurturing the festering of the problem into a much bigger monster. And 5-10 years down the track, it is absolutely not surprising that those people are on multiple S8 or high potency pain drugs, and the antidepressants and the sleep sedatives.
So why do you think, like I'm only in working as a professional out of uni in a short period of time. Yeah, I've got experience as a strength coach and as a personal trainer and things like that. But you're been a surgeon for a long time, right? You've been probably practicing for 20 years, right? Why has things not transitioned at the speed that we would like? Why are we now closer to realising that trying to treat somebody with chronic pain using an acute solution doesn't work?
Well, I mean,
is it ignorance, or is it just people?
There's probably multiple factors. There's like the modern epidemic of chronic disease is kind of, there's conflicts of interest, there's laziness, there's willingness to put the work in, to change lifestyle. In terms of, there's two really strong parallels with chronic disease, and one is metabolic health, and then there's lots of parallels with physical health as well. But if you think about it, like why have we reached a stage in the world where 2/3 of the population are obese or overweight?
Yeah, it's shocking.
And why is it that we're approaching 25% of the population have diabetes or pre-diabetes? Like, that is a really easy disease to reverse and basically eradicate. But it takes leadership. It takes governance. It takes a separation from big food and big pharma. And those organisations and money are what drive the
cycle,
the media cycle that tells people a lot of misinformation that you know,
movement is bad, rest,
yeah.
go to a therapist, dry needle, just massage for the first 4 to 6 weeks of treatment, right? This type of misinformation.
Exactly right. Well, you know, like people don't understand that the 80% of the food they're eating is actually poisoning them. So, but that 80% of the food they're eating is driving $1 billion trillion commercial food industry.
Yeah.
And that is driving $1 billion trillion pharmaceutical industry. So really, there is no motivation to stop chronic disease, because
there's too much money involved.
There's too much money involved. So there's conflicts of interest, and I talk about the change has to come from a grassroots level. It's got to come from the community understanding the truth, and the government then forcing the government to change guidelines and policies, because it will not come from a top-down approach. The government is not going to then turn around and say, hey, we're separating all our ties with Uncle Toby's Sanitarium and Kellogg's. We're separating all our ties with the sugar industry or the smoking industry or the alcohol industry, and going to impose a taxation on all of those things, because it's just not going to happen. But if the community says, no, we understand, and we spread the word from a grassroots level that this is how you obtain metabolic health, this is how you treat diabetes, this is how you treat obesity, this is how you treat physical musculoskeletal problems, then the government will just say, well, this is what the community wants. We're not going to get re-elected unless we change our policies, because the community votes for us. Ultimately, in a democratic society, we are the leaders. And if we demand that our government does this certain thing and they want our vote, they're not going to get our vote. So it's got to come from the grassroots level. That's how it's got to come.
I loved this morning, like I witnessed, so that maybe the listeners will be able to hear us. I was very fortunate to witness the movement fundamentals class, and they're in week 5. Phase 3. Week 3 of phase 5. I think I saw
8 weeks. So they're not even halfway.
Not even halfway. And I loved this morning, and anybody that's out there that's going to watch or listen to this, like what Dr. Johnson is talking about, trying to grow things from the grassroots level. We had a class of people of mixed ages in there this morning, and we were going through the movement fundamentals, but your coach in there was taking the time out to actually educate those people around the different movements, but also the 4 pillars: nutrition, stress management, what else we have, fundamentals, sleep, the movement, and sleep. And it's really simple.
So simple.
It's really simple. Like it just takes people a little bit of buy-in, and actually guys, like it actually is really that simple.
But there's no money in it. So there is no money, there's no conflict of interest in teaching people that you have to have quality sleep, you have to have quality nutrition, you have to have quality movement, and you have to keep the stress at a healthy level in your life. It's very difficult to market that. And that's kind of why these fundamental pillars of health are not on every billboard. They're not on every
not sexy enough for you, very hard to sell, right? That's it. But one of my sayings is true health is free. Being truly healthy is not a product. You cannot buy health, and therefore if you can't buy health, you can't make money from health. It's got to come, it comes from just doing those fundamentals. And how have you, and I asked that question inside, like where did those clients come from? How have you managed to grab these clients from the community and encourage them to come in?
Well, people will either seek out our services by seeing me as a specialist neurosurgeon with an interest in spine care, and there are a lot of people with spine-related pain. So they may be referred to me by their general practitioners. They may have heard about our services from friends. So they come and see me as a specialist, or they may just come across our social platforms and a friend of a friend might say, hey, you've got to go and see the Functional Movement Training Centre. But I would say that the majority are coming through as patients of my surgical practice, which is kind of sad, because I want to try to get people
willingly to come before they need to see a surgeon. That's right.
It's kind of like, well, how come you've had to wait
this long
10 years
to get here
or more with pain before you find out about functional movement as a training, as a therapeutic methodology.
Yeah.
You've had to wait until your GP or your physical therapist has given up on you and said, no, you got to go see the surgeon now because nothing has worked.
Yeah.
You know, the Pilates, the massage, the time off work, the drugs, they're still not working. You better go and see the surgeon now. And then when I see them, I say, no, there's still an option. You don't need surgery yet. In the majority of people, I still have to operate on people, you know,
that have the structural needs
breakdown,
and structural breakdown,
and even after I operate on them, they still need to come and do this anyway. Otherwise, they're back in square one. So that's the real sad thing, and we were saying that's the whole mission behind the College of Movement Clinicians. Is to spread the word to every physical therapist that's seeing the patient in the first episode of back pain, or their first episode of shoulder impingement, or their first episode of knee pain. Movement is the methodology that will stop it by getting to the root cause.
And it's great. I'm delighted you brought that up. Actually, it's one of the questions that I had. I was writing down a couple of questions with a colleague of mine, Shane, back in Sydney. Shane has been helping me with some clients as well. But one of the things I did have written down was, if somebody presents with pain or chronic pain, back pain, whatever it might be, what should they do initially? What would your recommendations be?
Well, if they go and see their general practitioner is going to offer them some symptom-based treatments. Okay, so the standard thing will be some pain medication. They might offer them a medical certificate for 1 or 2 days off work, but they should always ask, why am I in this? Why am I experiencing this pain? Ask what is causing the pain. And then if that practitioner cannot explain to you why you have that pain in a logical, rational, simple way, then it is unlikely that you are going to be reversing that from happening again. And you will then be on the merry-go-round of relapsing and remitting pain, which will undoubtedly become chronic pain.
And that's what I see. I see people on a never-ending merry-go-round, particularly and I'm not shy to say this, in the workers' compensation field. Clients 2 to 3 years on workers' compensation, going around in a merry-go-round, been passed from Peter to Paul, and with no solution apart from go back to the GP and get more pain medication. Things escalate and people go further down the rabbit hole of depressive symptoms and everything else, and then psychiatrists and psychologists have to be enlisted for help, and then there's more medication for that, and it's a never-ending cycle, and it gets really difficult for people to break. And people are fundamentally physically and emotionally broken from the system that's there.
It's demoralising.
And I can't, like, for people that are listening, like, I love what you just said there. Like, there's a little bit of accountability that has to go back on the person to question what is going on here, and if it's not structural, well, what is it?
Well, they may be told that they've got a disc bulge or they've got a disc tear or a disc prolapse, but they've still got to ask the question, why? And there may be truth in that, but why did I get the disc prolapse? Or why
in the first place?
Yes. Because the disc prolapse and the disc tear, that can heal if you engage in the correct therapy, but if you don't get told why the prolapse happened in the first place, it is very highly likely, particularly in the work cover, in a workers' comp arena, when the worker has to go back and start doing physical work again, that they will re-tear the disc. And within 2 weeks of return to work, they're back on sick leave again. Because although their pain got better and everyone thinks, patting themselves on the back, we got that worker back to work, they're back they crash again. And that is all too common. And then the patient then is told, no, you can't be a furniture removalist anymore. Go and get a different job. Or you can't be a rigger or a truck driver anymore. Go and get a different job.
I see this time and time again. And I'm only new out as an exercise physiologist, right? But it is so frustrating that we're dealing with people's physical and mental health here, and they're really just being treated as a transaction when it comes to the insurance and workers' comp game. And instead of a system trying to help people, we're actually not at all.
They're just ticking the boxes.
Ticking the boxes.
They're ticking the boxes. Yep, we've done that. We've done that. He's had 20 sessions of whatever therapy. They think that is enough to get you. You should be back at work. If you're not back at work, you're a malingerer.
Yeah, yeah.
And I say to patients that have had 6 months off work, and I write back to the claim manager and I say, patient is beginning their rehab now.
Yeah.
I know they've been off work for 6 months. I know they've done countless sessions of this or that, and they're on these medications. And I know you think they should be back at work, but I'm sorry, the system has failed them. Their rehab starts now.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't care about their history, because their history is everything that's been done up until now has been futile.
Yeah.
They are still in pain. They are still disabled. Their rehab starts now.
Yeah.
And you've got to make it as blunt as that. When you can see that the history of treatment is so suboptimal, you just got to be clear. I don't care what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
Starting now.
Yeah. I love that. It's going to take a little bit more time for us, I think, like, to move in the right direction.
Yep.
But I would encourage even like the other exercise physiologists that are in the game, like, guys and girls, we need to start changing things up, because
But the fact that you're here, Alan, the fact that you flew up from Sydney, it resonates with you. If it resonates with you, it resonates with other people. And we just keep sharing these messages. We get more people involved. You're going to tell people. It's an exponential growth, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't take many cycles of that exponential growth to really make an impact.
Yeah.
And then we start changing the policy guidelines. Then we start tapping into government leadership, because we are driving that from a grassroots need basis.
Yeah. And from your own work as well, have you presented any work in terms of research and, you know, quality work to the powers that be to say, hey, there is an alternative here, and I have data to show that this works?
Well, I've made attempts to present at multiple meetings. We have got some publications out that talk about movement therapy and our outcomes. It's difficult. It's difficult to get into peer-reviewed journals, because from a peer-reviewed journal perspective, the editors themselves are a little bit blind to the methodology.
Right, yeah.
So whenever I whenever I submit a manuscript, and I've probably submitted about 10 manuscripts by now, it's very hard to get past the first couple of editors. They don't understand that we have a definition of good movement. It doesn't mean that every single person is going to move according to our prescription of good movement. Yeah. But it does certainly mean that we can improve on everyone's movement. Okay. Who's suffering from musculoskeletal pain. Yeah. But it's just not in the textbooks, so they kind of have a barrier of entry. Yeah. But that will change too, slowly. I can tell you that every single patient that does neurorehab has data collected on them regarding pre-intervention disability scores and pain scores, and post-intervention disability and pain scores. And on average, after 8 weeks of movement therapy, those disability scores halve.
That's by half?
By half, yep. And they're entering the program as a cohort of severely disabled people. And
is that capturing the data, say, initially on a pain rating scale, for example, like the VAS kind of pain rating scale? Yeah,
and Oswestry disability.
Right, very good.
So we just use a gold standard of ODI and the pain scale. Yeah. And on average, people are entering the program with a very high level of disability, as opposed to just walking off the street and minor disability.
Like literally coming in saying, I am in serious pain here. Like
because the cohort is already... The cohort is biased towards being very disabled because they're coming through a neurosurgeon. Okay, so our cohort of patients is quite damaged, and even with the quite damaged cohort, we're halving their disability.
That's phenomenal.
After 8 weeks. So imagine the cohort of people that are just walking in off the street saying, I've got a little bit of back pain. Okay, they have a very low level of disability. Yeah. They could be effectively restored to athleticism and never feel back pain again.
That's amazing.
Once you teach them, once they understand.
How do you create that buy-in? Like, so
How do you get buy-in?
so when people come in and they probably think, oh, here we go, you know, but how do you instill the belief, the confidence, and the buy-in for them to keep turning up here every week to create?
Well,
yeah,
at the moment,
that
the
flow.
buy-in is because they're so disabled. They've tried everything. Most people who are doing our program in Brisbane, they have done the core strengthening, the Pilates, the chiropractic therapy, the acupuncture, the prolotherapy. They've had surgery that's failed. They've had the most potent opioid drugs. They have nowhere else to go. That's why they are here.
Right. Okay.
But we need to. It's just very sad that that's the case.
We need to capture it further up the funnel.
We need to capture them
upstream.
Yeah. We need to capture them 5 to 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
And that's how we eliminate the $1 billion burden of musculoskeletal disease.
And I know you've a lovely vision, and we've chatted a little bit about it. But can you give us more information around what that functional Functional Movement College of Practitioners is going to be?
Yeah, the College of Functional Movement Clinicians.
Yeah.
It wants to embrace this collaboration. Embrace the collaboration. People like yourself. It doesn't even really need to have people with professional qualifications. You know, physiotherapists, exercise physiologists. That's great if you do have those qualifications, but it's not essential. There are many personal trainers out there who understand lifting biomechanics.
Yeah.
And that is really the skill set that we're trying to embrace, because it's the lifting biomechanics that we need to transfer, that skill set, we need to transfer that to grandma, to the accountant, to the teacher, to the physical labourer. And there's many people in that sort of lifting industry that can transfer those skills.
I like the way it's holistic, it's open to everybody, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
But I think as well, like, it would be so valuable, I think, if something like that could be extended even into the universities and welcomed in there, because it's something that's not actually taught well, right? Here's a muscle, here's the origin, here's the insertion. It does, it pulls this way and that way, and this is the action or whatever. But nobody does a good job, or did a good job, I don't think, in my degree anyway, of actually pulling the pieces in together.
Yeah, that's right.
Around movement. Okay, when something goes wrong, guys, this is really how to assess someone properly.
Yeah. It's not
right.
Movement theory is kind of like this growing field or subject matter that we want to basically establish as a unit of those courses. But I think as the community demands it, the universities and the organisations like the Association of Physiotherapists and Exercise Physiologists, they will see that, if we're going to remain valid in this industry, in this space, we better start teaching movement theory to our students. Because if you don't teach movement theory, you're not going to have a place in the industry. Yeah. Because as a collaboration, as we grow, we want to set that as being the default. Yeah. That's the default rehabilitation that you do when you have musculoskeletal pain.
When, say, the first year in uni, I never did physics in school a long time ago. I did biology, right? Loved it. But I didn't do biomechanics. I found it challenging in the first year when I went to uni. But for the first, I think it was 2 years, it was purely maths. Equations, right? Okay, and you need to know the fundamentals and things like that, and the laws of physics and things like that. But it was only when I was in third year and in my last year when it started to kind of pull together. But I kind of felt like it was too late. I nearly felt like the part 2 of the biomechanics actually should have been part 1 all the way through uni, because that's actually what's fundamental to students and what's important to students going through the system at the moment. And actually annoyed me, to be if I'm honest with you, because I was thinking like I really slaved for those first 2 years to really get my head around that physics. But when it came together, the mathematics was pretty brutal. But it was the practical application of it in terms of sporting settings and examples when it really knitted together for me. But it was such a shame it was so far down the line.
The maths made sense the moment you swung a kettlebell or the moment you tried to do a deadlift. But I understand that not everyone is going to have that mathematical background or that university education in biomechanics. But
what would you say to the? Sorry, go on. Sorry, I have another one here.
If you've ever used a crowbar to jimmy open a door or a lock or move a heavy rock with a crowbar, you kind of understand biomechanics, right? Levers and fulcrums. Like it doesn't.
It's not that hard.
The qualitative element of biomechanics is not that hard. And like when we were training the neurohabbers this morning, we were watching them, and you can see that biomechanical pattern wasn't right in that patient, and we can go and correct it, and we gave that patient a little cue, and he goes, oh, that feels so much better. That's the skill set that is more important to me as a director of the college, and that's the person that I want to nurture, to train, because I know that if he's lifted a barbell, if he's swung a kettlebell, if he knows how to squat, he's going to be able to transfer that skill with a little bit of training, and we want to do courses to get people up to speed to do that. And it's not going to, they don't need that high level degree of mathematics.
It's honing in, like maybe call it the eagle eye, it comes with experience and from doing the coach's eye. You just the more sessions you do and the longer you do, you just pick it up. Absolutely. You can see it straight away, and you can't help but jump in and say, just a little, we're just going to tweak that, scap retraction or whatever, pulling the shoulder blades back a little bit, or even there this morning, that gentleman there, he wasn't hinging back that far enough. We had another guy who was rocking on his heels when he was squatting, as opposed to nice flat feet, tripod setting in the feet. So little things like that, and like I can't emphasise enough to people or students out there.
Got the coach's eye, and
that's so important. That end of things.
Yep, that's right.
And people as well should not ditch others that are completing their uni degrees that are doing personal training either, during their degrees, because in actual fact they probably have an advantage going out into the workplace.
They should be able to understand it even to a slightly deeper level. I mean, but there's no, if you've got that mathematical understanding and you know all the formulas about torque and moment arms, and you go to a patient and you start spitting out formulas to them, that's not going to help the patient at all. They want a tactile feedback, a visual feedback, a verbal feedback. They want to see you demonstrate it so they can copy it. They want to see the video that you take of them moving poorly and say, this is what you need to correct. See, that's what's more important about fixing someone's movement dysfunction. And did they, when you were at uni, did they teach you that movement dysfunction was a disease?
No.
That's the concept.
The term movement dysfunction was never discussed.
Yeah, it's a disease.
So it was literally, Dr. Johnson, I remember my anatomy lectures, and it was, there were we had 2 3-hour double lectures, and then we had 2 2-hour lab classes per week. I loved the lab classes. That's when things really started to come together, with the cadavers and things like that. That was really good just to see all that. But the lectures were absolutely rubbish. You would actually have to spend the same amount of time studying outside to go back over stuff that wasn't explained really well, and it was literally glossed over. And there was a minimum of 80 slides per presentation in those 3 hours. Like expecting students to sit there for 3 hours as well, tuned in and listening to anatomy, like it's there was just a lot that I thought could have been done a lot better to prepare us going out there.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having that didactic knowledge, but you can't leave out the most important stuff, right? Like it's got to have impact on actually changing people's lives. And like even our medical degree and stuff, like why wouldn't the training of a spinal surgeon also have a little bit of a component on teaching the surgeon why the patient's L5-S1 disc is clapped out.
Yeah, never touched on at uni.
Crazy, right?
And we didn't even have lifting classes at uni,
Nuts.
and we were doing a sport. Well, like
Crazy.
I started in sports science, right, and then I transitioned over to exercise physiology.
Yep.
But there was no lifting component until fourth year for a couple of months. And one of the lecturers at that time, Tim, actually, he's a great guy. He does lift. And he's very passionate about it, and he brought the modules to life, and he was coaching. But you could tell, like, that's another thing. Most of the students in a lot of the allied health professionals degrees don't train. They don't exercise. So you can't. I'm a firm believer that you can't. Yeah, how are you supposed to be an advocate
Academics, right? Yeah, we've got calluses on our hands, right?
Yeah,
This is a sign that you know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
because you do it, and we're going to tap into that massive resource of people with calluses on their hand to become movement clinicians.
I love some of the memes that Dr. Andrew Locke put to
Andrew and Brogan, they're so passionate.
yeah.
Yourself, there's another guy, Nick. You know,
Nick Atkins.
Yep,
Yeah.
they're all so passionate about it, and there's more people out there. We've just got to give them the confidence that they have a very powerful skill set to bloody change the world. They can seriously change the world.
Yeah.
Because we know that musculoskeletal pain, in particular spine pain, is one of the leading causes of disability on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, for goodness sake, if we can reverse that,
Yeah.
if we can reverse back pain and make the world understand that movement dysfunction causes back pain alone,
Yeah.
we've changed the world. That's insane.
It's
right?
insane.
It's insane. Profound.
I listened to a podcast recently with Dr. Chatterjee in the UK, Feel Better, Live More.
Okay.
And it's a really some great episodes with Dr. Chatterjee, and he had Howard Schubiner on it recently about pain. And he's a top pain researcher in the US, and he was on it. And he was talking about the power of the mind, and actually how much that the actual brain can control our perception of pain that we have as well. What would you think of tackling the movement fundamentals also with addressing some of the psychological aspects in terms, you meant, like, you already have stress management in your courses as well.
Yep.
And how do you delve more into that stress management area?
Week 4 or week 5, I can't remember which one exactly, we have a little unit on pain science. Okay, so there is this educational component, talking to patients about giving them a very concise but accurate framework to understand pain. And we talk about pain generators being either nociceptive, inflammatory, neuropathic, or central.
Yeah.
Okay, so we break it down into those 4 categories of pain. But the triggering of those mediators of pain to the brain is still driven by poor movement or movement dysfunction. And if you're going to switch off those mediators of pain, you need to still eliminate what activates a nociceptor, what activates inflammation, what activates neuropathic transmission, and what activates central pain. Central pain is difficult to conceptualize because central pain is really the nervous system autonomously driving neuronal pain within the central nervous system, not within the disc or the joint or the cartilage. But neuronal pain or central sensitization happens to people who get very poor treatment in the early stages. If you address people's nociceptive, inflammatory or neuropathic pain very well in the early phases of their journey, they will not become centralized.
And I think that's what I had raised as well with some of my clients. At that time when we had our chat, didn't we?
And that's, I think, a lot of the industry gets a little bit confused when they start to talk about pain science in this very nebulous way about central sensitization. But they're still forgetting the fact that central sensitization arose because of the actual bad treatment
and bad movement.
Central sensitization is a whole new beast that needs to be, in some patients, in some unfortunate patients, it needs to be treated in its own right as a new neurological disease in combination with the
That's
musculoskeletal origin
Yeah.
of that neurological disease.
all.
That's where I come in as a specialist,
Yeah.
and I need to fine tune their management alongside the movement therapist.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not saying that every movement therapist is going to have the knowledge and the skill set to manage neuronal pain.
Yeah.
But as a network of clinicians, we can help each other with even those most challenging
Yeah,
patients.
100%.
Oh, God,
I
we can
agree with
do
that.
it.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
We've got so much experience, but we need to collaborate, and that's the whole point of being a member of the college. You have a patient like that, you email me and say, I've got this patient with this condition. I go, okay, it sounds very much like I need to have a bit of a chat with them. So I have a chat with them, I do a consult with them, and next minute we can then liaise with their GP, explain it to their GP, who probably doesn't know much about what's going on. And we create a formula, we create a roadmap to pull that patient out of a very dark hole. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for those patients, but we've done it many times now.
Yeah.
We've pulled
How long have you been doing this?
I'll give you an
at the
example
moment?
of someone who's had, like, I think I've got a YouTube video of him.
Yeah.
He's on our YouTube channel.
Is that just the recent one that you posted, that chap?
Well, he's one, but he's
Yeah.
nowhere near as deep and dark as some of our patients.
Okay.
I've got a patient with 20 years of debilitating pain, and we pulled him out of his hole in 2 years.
Wow.
It took 2 years, but he's now gone from completely disabled to an athlete.
And he's in training in here?
He regularly trains as an athlete. Like, he probably would have done that workout that we did this morning.
Wow.
But after 20 years, he was in a place where it was difficult to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Because of central sensitization.
And that's where a lot of my clients are right now. And like, my heart goes down to them because I have to take it in stages with the clients as well, right? Early stages, I may even just get the person to do hydrotherapy for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I will set the expectation early on that after your 4 weeks of hydrotherapy, let's start working on a little bit some of the fundamentals in the gym, and then slowly we start to build on executing some of the movements. And I've seen the results with some of the people which, rotator cuff tears, lower back clients have had over the last 8 months, and the results are starting to come, and people are starting to feel a lot more confident. And as an allied health professional, exercise physiologist, the buzz and the feeling you get when you see somebody going down that road is phenomenal. So like the work that you guys are doing here, to take somebody that was in pain for 20 years and to reverse it in 2, and that's exactly what I really want to try and do in Sydney, is actually to help these people out of the ruts that they're in, reverse where they're at, and help them navigate their way to living their best life again.
Oh, you can do it, and you just need that network around you to help fill in the spots that you may not currently be able to do independently, completely on your own. And you need to be working with people who have the same understanding of the clinical model. You need a clinical model that explains every facet of that person's problem. From the surgical patients to the non-surgical to the centralized to the simple neuropathic nociceptive inflammatory.
That's fantastic.
And movement theory describes that clinical model. And I've not seen one textbook or one journal article that replicates the clinical model that we've created.
That's phenomenal, isn't it?
Every disease process that is successfly managed has a very tight, a watertight clinical model. Think about that. Remember those, if you studied biology, the life cycle of malaria. And you know how you have the larva, and then it turns into this and turns into that, and then it affects the human, and then it comes back up. That's a life cycle model of the disease, and the same models have to exist for musculoskeletal pain, and we've created that clinical model for musculoskeletal pain. I think I've posted it.
When did you first launch it?
We started NeuroHab in 2015.
2015. Wow.
So for over 7 years, we've been delivering and refining movement theory, and we've now got it to the point where we know it's watertight. It is 100%. I've had conversations with so many people. No one can pick holes in the clinical model, but it's time to allow the people to collaborate and just get this out there.
How have you found? You said like-minded people is really important, and I 100% agree with you there. Right? How have you found the people?
It's really.
Or did we just gravitate towards each other in some kind of strange way?
There's been like we have outlet services around southeast Queensland, and people who are in the industry have gravitated towards it because they know this is kind of the way I'm going to have success in my own practice. So they are independently delivering movement therapy under the NeuroHab sort of banner and functional movement training centre, but really on a more broader scale it's only really been this year since we've sort of been a bit more active on social media
and pushed it out there
and pushing it out to sort of saying, hey, do you want to learn more? Do you want to incorporate this into your practice in Sydney, wherever you may be, whatever type of patient you have, and most people will have back pain clients. Simply because it's so ubiquitous. Like back pain is so ubiquitous. You might have an interest in shoulders or knees, but I can guarantee you 10%, if not more, are going to be back pain. The average physiotherapy studio has a 50% cohort of back pain.
I easily believe that.
Back pain, so if you want to deliver a better service to your back pain clients, then we can help you. We can help you become a movement therapist as well as a physiotherapist. It's just another hat. You know, by all means, keep doing what your physiotherapy taught you, but also deliver.
Build on that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So moving into 2023, where are we looking at now? What's the plan?
We would like to launch our first movement therapy course in the early stages of 2023. So January, February, we want to be doing courses to anyone who wants to incorporate movement therapy into their practice. Or if they want to start, say they're a Cert 3, Cert 4 personal trainer, and they want to be able to help someone with back pain. They can have the skill set and the network supporting them in the college to be able to help one of their clients with back pain.
So good.
And it's just initially it'll just be a one-day course with various layers of extra skill acquisition, and I think we can do it.
I think so too. Well, definitely think so. I think moving in isn't it funny actually? We're moving in the right direction, but isn't it funny though? If you dig deep enough, you'll start going down or finding the direction that you kind of want to go, right? Like that patient that I came across going back about 6 months ago before I contacted you has led to today, me being here today, chatting to you. And it was because when that lady opened up her front door and the symptoms that were presented in front of me didn't really match what I could see on her file, and it was just through digging and asking questions and turning to others, experts in the industry, and it's funny how I was just steered to this direction. And then I contacted you, you can't underestimate just actually the power of networking, right? And trying and asking questions, and I refuse to take the passive treatment as the solution. You know, sit there now on the bed, and I'm going to jab a few needles into you, and we'll see you next week. I'm wide awake. Can you book in at the front desk for another 10 sessions?
Next session next week.
I'm blue in the face listening to that treatment option and solution with clients.
Alan, it's as simple as just imagine that you are a lung surgeon, and your job was to do a lung transplant in people who smoke cigarettes, and you did not know that cigarette smoking was causing the lung damage, and all you did was do lung transplants, and you did not tell the patient to stop smoking.
Yeah.
It's as insane as that.
It's insane as that.
To simply give people some prolotherapy or acupuncture or whatever, cupping, whatever the latest fad is, and not actually tell them why they need why they're in pain. It's no different to a lung transplant surgeon not telling someone to stop smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because when I transplant your lungs, and if you're still smoking, guess what's going to happen to the new lungs?
Same.
You're going to need another lung transplant.
Exactly.
And you would not even get on a transplant list if you were still smoking.
Yeah.
Right? But so in every other facet of medicine, we do know that treating the cause is highly relevant.
Yeah.
But musculoskeletal medicine is kind of delayed.
Yeah.
It's almost retarded.
Yeah.
Because it just does not address causation.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And I put a post up about it a little while ago. I'm trying to push things a little bit on social media as well.
Yeah.
Pure, not. It's actually primarily not coming from a business standpoint.
No.
It's more trying to put the right information out there to people and to get people to think. But one of the posts that I did put up there a little while ago was, if you're going to the same therapist, whether it be a physiotherapist, a chiropractor, an exercise physio, whatever, and they're giving you the bog standard 2 sets of 50 banded clams and a couple of sit to stands, Mackenzie, and they're finishing off the sessions with dry needling and booking you in at the front counter, you need to find yourself a different allied health professional.
100%.
Like, they do not take that as the gold standard. That is not the gold standard.
That is proven to be failed.
That is a proven and that is the
failure.
problem here.
It is.
It's one of the problems here.
Why do we have an epidemic? Why do we have an epidemic? That's
it's so lazy.
Has proven to be unsuccessful.
Yeah.
It's time to change.
It's time to change it. We need to change this.
It's a paradigm shift.
100%. 100%.
You get it. I get it. It's frustrating that a lot of the world doesn't yet get, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Well,
that's what the college is
I'm
doing.
looking forward to now next year and getting started and seeing what we can do in Sydney and Australia-wide.
Absolutely, mate. I'm excited for next year as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
See you guys.
See you guys.